how do you think culture impacts developer experience, and what should a healthy culture at organizations look like who really want to embrace that developer first mentality?
The culture shift, I would say, that we have seen in the industry in last 5 to 10 years, I would say, is the design first approach across the API, or the way the APIs or the development is done. And something similar we have adopted in our organization as well is, we would try to make sure that we have the API contract first defined with the architects, with the technical product managers, and then the development takes place, which then helps not only the key stakeholders, but the overall organization, to make sure that we have one API contracts, and that keeps the full team, all the team members aligned across the board. So a well-designed API, I would say, can help you adopt with the adoption, and as well as the consumption of API. So that's what we have been doing, and I think that's been working well with the API first approach. So that is the cultural shift I think we have seen in the industry, and if somebody is not there, I would definitely recommend to go with the design first approach.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it makes perfect sense. And so, I'm curious. You're talking about working with the product teams and other technical stakeholders. How does I mean, you're the owner of developer experience. How do you think about sort of like all the different stakeholders that kind of contribute towards developer experience across the organization? Do you have sort of a framework in terms of like how you approach them, work with them, build allies and alliances?
Yes. So every individual team comes into play during the life cycle of the product. And so we definitely do engage them at every other point, I would say, where they should be engaged. But that is the pretty standard model. But other than that, I would say what we do, what we have been doing in last few years, is we have tried to engage all the key stakeholders. It may be the sales engineer, it may be the support folks, it may be our architects. Obviously, architects are involved from the beginning, but even the developers, for that matter, we try to engage them in the very beginning when we are doing these with designs of the APIs or any feature development that we want to do, and run it through everybody, so that before we start writing any piece of code, these people are aware what is getting developed and what they should be expecting. So I think that is a very key, so that there are not too many surprises when the product is actually delivered. But other than that, obviously there is a framework that when the support needs to be engaged, we do the TOIs to them, we create the sales deck and so on for the folks whenever that the commercialization of the product happens. But I think this is one of the key, that you should be engaging them at the very beginning of any design work that we have to do.
Yeah. How do you think about kind of the responsibility of delivering a great developer experience? Is that something that you feel like there's a lot of benefit by having sort of that centralized function and team that really drives that? And obviously, it sounds like those stakeholders that you work with, they all have input and they all have sort of their role. But how do you think about sort of having that kind of central accountability versus I guess there could be maybe a different model of, hey, look, every product manager across the organization is ultimately also responsible for developer experience? Or kind of, I guess, just how do you think about, like, I think something that we hear a lot is, and companies trying to figure out like where to assign that accountability and responsibility to make sure that it has the right the right kind of oomph within the organization.
Yes, I think developer experience is one of the areas where you basically has to touch and work with every other product manager, every other product, because if you want to give a developer experience, you cannot be giving us a different developer experience for every product that you have. right? It should
Very
be
true.
the same aligned experience when it comes to the external either developers or even the clients that are using it. So the way I see it is, you should always treat your developer experience as a platform within the company. It should fit into this bucket of under a platform organization, because that is what actually a developer experience is. You are giving a platform not only to your external developers, but also for the internal, either it can be product managers or other folks who are engaged in the products or defining the APIs, which you are taking in and hosting and giving a developer experience for those products. So it's very crucial for having that mindset that we are using this whole, either it can be a developer portal, it can be a SDKs, or it can be overall the API design. This is all, I am leveraging this as a platform, and I'm trying to fit in my product into the way we want to showcase it to the developers. So
Yeah.
that's how I try to do it and engage and showcase it to the other product managers. And I think that aligns and resonates very well with them, that why do we need to work with this guy?
Yeah. Right.
And I can just write a PDF documentation and that should be good enough, but that's not good enough for the
Right.
developers who is trying to integrate, right? So it
For
should be
sure.
going through this one centralized flow, which makes sure that the external developers are very well aware of and they can
Yeah.
integrate very easily. Yeah.
For lack of a better way to say it, it's that critical last mile, right? If you don't have that last mile, then well, it's gonna fall flat. And I think a lot of organizations have found themselves a little bit flat-footed in the sense of, hey, this is, what is it? We don't even need to think about that. We have this great API, we have these great services that we're offering up. But if you miss that, right, then you're going to you're going to increase the friction to integrate. You're going to cause a lot of issues and ultimately pay for it at some point, right, and have to play catch up.
We have seen that. I mean, within our organization as well, we have seen that if we do not take care of the developers and developer experience, those products fall behind, and we don't see that much of adoption if you have a one-off integration methods for those products. So
Yeah.
definitely having that view is very crucial from the organizational perspective, that we need to have a good developer experience.
Definitely. So you mentioned, maybe early on in the program, developers will push back. Hey, why can't I just write this, this PDF or this Markdown file with a getting started guide or whatnot, and that should be good enough. I'm curious if you have any like practical tips for organizations who feel like there is pushback in the organization, whether that's from peers, the folks upstairs, or whatever it might be, on how to kind of foster a really healthy a culture where there's buy-in and there's excitement about the impact that this can have.
Well, I would say that the easy way to do that across the organization is to define the ROI for each stakeholders, or each group that you are working with. It can also include your leadership. So if you are able to clearly communicate that with those groups, that what is the ROI for you and your group for this developer experience. It's not about just getting good likes on LinkedIn or Twitter from your developers. It should be completely business driven developer experience. So you need to explain them how the business is impacted with the developer experience, and how can, so it's very hard to even generate, because developer experience doesn't generate any revenue. So you need to show the cost that you are saving using this developer experience, right? So it's very, so these good metrics, if you can have that, it can make everybody understand where developer experience fits and how they fit into these developer experience well. So I would say the metrics in this case is very important to have. And developer experience, if you see it that way, it's a dark art that only few in the company understand. That's what everybody feels like. So having a good metrics like that, which resonates with everybody else, is actually very helpful.
I love it. I'm going to use that, the dark art. So following up on that question, I think this ties in well. Are there any misconceptions around developer experience that you've seen that that would be that others might be facing that would be good to sort of clear up?
Yeah, so that's what I was actually referring to when I was saying that the dark art concept, right? So when it comes to the developer experience, there are the common misconception is, hey, I have developed this API. Now, how you take this forward, right? It can be a documentation. It can be just what the samples looks like. Everything that relates to that product, right? Now, the other product owners may be thinking that he can write the documentation for us, he can write the samples for us, but that may not be true. We are giving you it as a platform, as a developer platform, but you still need to engage with the developer experience team to make sure that your documentation actually showcase what your feature set needs to be. So there is this very thin line which is between the actual product managers for their own products and the developer experience product managers, that where do they take the control of your API. So what we try to do is, as I said, that it's more of a platform. Once you have these 4, 5, 6 items, we should be able to take your API out, showcase it on the developer portal, or have it the way the SDKs on all different 6, 7 languages that we have. So that's how it is. And that's what the common misconception is, that it's only about developing the feature sets. After that, the developer experience team will pick up and showcase it. But that may not be necessarily true. You need a lot of collaboration with the other folks in the company.
For sure. It's working in parallel from the beginning, not just this handing off the baton at the end of it. Yep. So jumping from product teams and engineering maybe over to content, communications, marketing, what is so occasionally we see developer experience sitting with marketing, we see it sitting with product and so forth. I mean, from your perspective, how should DX and DevRel work with marketing and communications? Is that something that you're involved with in terms of how how that your offerings are ultimately commercialized and packaged and sold?
Yeah. We do engage with the marketing team very earlier in the game. We also have a developer marketing person as well, who focuses on marketing for developers. So there are 2 aspects to it. One is when the new products are being developed, how do we market them, or how do we communicate them? It can be a simple blog post, it can be a simple newsletter and things like that we can put out and market it. But then there are other aspects of developer or engaging the developers through marketing is as well. You can have a good webinars. You can have some nice videos put out about like video tutorials using your marketing team, where you can post it on YouTube or LinkedIn or other social media networks. And we do engage with our marketing team on a regular basis, even hackathon for that matter. Every year we try to have a hackathon where we engage with these developers and the developer community through these different promotions that we do through marketing. So so the marketing plays a very heavy role in the whole developer success.
So in piggybacking on marketing, and I think there's some overlap here, diving into community. Obviously community is a big part of developer success and developer relations. Do you have any recommendations or best practices on sort of the role of community? Is it one of those things that is out of the gate super critical to DX? Can it come later? How do you think about building, managing, fostering that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you are brand new to the game, you may not have the community, you may have to develop the community. But if you have you know, a good traction on your APIs, that's what I would say. The adoption is the important piece. Once you have the adoption and the consumption of your APIs, community plays a very important role. Now, so there are, on internet you will find these loose collection of tools like maybe Stack Overflow or Google Groups and things like that, where the developers might try to engage among themselves to find out the problems with your APIs and with your products. But that may not be very useful in times, because if you have a centralized place like a developer forums where your developer community can come in and engage among themselves, where the like-minded individuals can come together to provide the feedback, it gives them a voice together.
Right.
They can raise their voice in terms of, hey, I also have the same issue that this guy is having, and that brings them the sense of an ownership as well, on the products that they are integrating with. So it is definitely a very, very, very important to have a community that you can engage with, which you can interact with very easily. And we are now just trying to do something similar, where we are trying to maybe engage these developer community through a developer forum in our area as well. Yeah.
Do you think about those forums more as like a support tool, or also as like, you know, like an evangelism mechanism?
It is both, because it is definitely a very good support tool, because all the frequently asked questions to our support organization will be now channelized through the developer forums, right? So it takes do all the heavy lifting and lifts a very big burden from your support team, where they have to answer some of the redundant kind of questions that you get from the developer community. And from the evangelization point of view, we can have the blog post, we can reach out to the community very often if we are conducting a webinar, where we have a very a good sense of who the active developers are, who can we engage with. If we want to do a pilot program for any specific new feature, new product, we can engage with these developers pretty easily, because we see them actively using our forums on a regular basis. Yeah.
A little bit earlier, we talked about analytics, measuring success. You made a great point about making sure that the various stakeholders know the impact of the business, know the ROI. You may know that it's not just the dark art. What are those things that you like to look at? What are those kind of top KPIs?
Well, if you want to talk about in a technical terms of what the KPIs are, like if you want to like, there can be a broader sense, like what makes you a successful developer experience. What is, how do you measure it, right? Measuring is I think if it comes to like the broader aspects of it, if I'm talking about in a general developer experience approach that any company might take, or any industry might have, is how much what the developer looks like when it comes to your product or your portal, and then how much time it takes for them to onboard themselves, right? How much time does it take for them to integrate with your first API, like with your Hello World program? How much time does it take for them to do a full integration in your test environment? How much time it takes you to go to the actual live, right? And then these are some of the very general, this will give you a very good sense that it takes them few weeks, few months, few days, or few minutes to integrate, right? And based on the kind of products that you have, it might vary, and you can definitely, and you will always have room to reduce those if you have these big pointers in place, and you set yourself some goals around that area. Now, in our case specifically, we are a payments company, and then we have a very good presence in North America region, and we have very good support in North America. But if you go to Asia Pacific or other regions, South America maybe, once we had this developer experience enabled, we saw a very good traction from these different regions, which were not very popular among our stats previously. Now they are getting popular because they have a way to go in, read about it, integrate, and do it very quickly without calling anybody, without having, or with the minimal support, right? North America merchants have that leverage of having a full support, but these may not have as much as support as the North America merchants or the clients might get, right? So in that case, I think we have seen those success, and these measures really help, because if you have a good developer experience, it shows that you will see the adoption increase and you will see the consumption increase of your products. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's not just a dark art.
Yeah.
It moves the numbers. Now, I
Yeah.
love that example about, adopting new folks that were not previously using the platform. You make it easy, make it self-serve, give them the community, and they can be empowered to be successful.
Yeah.
So one final question for you, a very broad one, so no pressure. Do you have any kind of parting thoughts or words of wisdom for teams that are rethinking their DX program? They're a little bit lost. We went through a lot of really fantastic stuff here, but if there's only maybe one or two things that they would take away from this conversation, what would you leave them with?
Well, a couple of things I would like to mention here is, first of all, the developers can sense the bullshit, right? They can just know if it's nonsense, if it's fluff, right? So be authentic, be open, be honest to the developers. They will respect your product more. Try to speak in the language that the developers understand. So, for example, I have a very good quote from Nelson Mandela. If you speak in the language that the person understands, it goes to his head. But if you speak in the language which he knows, or which is his own language, then it goes to his heart. So try to talk in the language. It may be PHP, Java. Try to build your documentation, your sample codes, everything around developer experience in a very custom specific language format, which are very popular among your developers, and your developers will just love that concept. And then finally, I would just say that the developer experience is just an aggregation of all the different experiences that the developer will be going throughout your product journey, right? So developer is the one which will make your product into a platform. So respect the developers. For sure.
Love it. I absolutely love that quote. I'm going to bookmark that for sure. But anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you. This was absolutely incredible. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for me inviting you. Thank you. Awesome talking to you.